During August 1955, my stepdad was stationed at Yokota Air Force Base in Japan. We'd been there about a year, and I had made some friends with several boys my own age. Before going back to school, we decided to go camping for the weekend. We rode our bikes over the Tama River Bridge towards Hachioji. Just past the bridge, we took a dirt path to the right, going up a steep hill to the top. In about a quarter mile, we came to a small camp area that a family ran that we had become friends with. We set up camp, and it was about 6 p.m. when the family invited us to eat with them. We did so, and actually had a pretty great time. About 8 o'clock, Kenny and I decided to go look at the view looking over the river from a picnic table about 25 yards from the house. The picnic table was separated only by a few trees from their house. The rest of the guys went back to the campsite and made a fire. Kenny was laying on the bench to the left of me while I was on the tabletop. Looking up into the sky, I saw a small light moving above. I yelled to Kenny to look. Just then, we were covered in a bright and warm light. Next, we're standing together at the end of the table in front of me and facing towards the campsite. We said nothing and walked by the house into the campsite. The other guys started asking if we'd gone to town and said they'd been looking for us. I remember saying no, and Kenny said no as well. Then Kenny added that we were at the picnic table. Jack, who was another one of the guys with us, said no, we were just up there 15 minutes ago, and we've been looking for you for the past hour or so. That's the last thing I remember until 8 the next morning. Kenny and I woke up at the same time, and the other guys had eaten and were coming back from their bike trip. They said they tried to wake us up, but they couldn't. Kenny and I never talked about the incident, and his dad, a major in the Air Force, was transferred a year later. It wasn't until the mid-'80s, while I was traveling through Ohio, when I heard a late-night radio show regarding missing time. The incident in Japan rang a bell. Hell, Kenny and I had been missing for several hours. I wonder if maybe we had experienced the missing time because we were abducted. Sometime later, while back at home, I told my wife about my experiences in Japan as well. She surprised me by saying that we had a strange visitor in the middle of the night while we were living in California. It scared her so much that she never told me. But she described the notorious gray alien. Sometime later in the 80s, we lived in Iowa, and we owned a manufacturing business. I was a mechanical engineer and had several patented inventions for meat processing equipment that we based our business on. During this period of time, I brought to my wife's attention an object that was under my skin, that seemed to be moving from one area of my body to another. I even had my chief engineer and friend verify this. We thought it might be shrapnel from Vietnam, where I served in the war in the 60s. In the early 90s, a doctor removed it from my back, and we looked at it. It was about 1/4 of an inch long, and it tapered at the ends, but not sharp, sort of rounded off. He threw it away, saying that it just looked like cast steel. I wish we had kept it after what I found out later regarding these objects found in other abductees. Years later, that same doctor recommended that I get a prostate examination. I had the exam, and the doctor said that the area was filled with scar tissue. He asked if I had a prostate exam before. I had absolutely never had one. Another bell rang loud. Something has happened to me without my knowledge or conscious knowledge of it. Someone I was telling the story to recommended that I have regression hypnosis to find out what happened. For 2 boys at 13 to never talk about the light that appeared to them is unusual at best. I did so. I had the regression hypnosis, and I had a flashback that scared the hell out of me. The hypnosis therapist got so excited he asked me to wait while he went to get a colleague to listen. I didn't wait. I left the doctor's office and never looked back. There was more than one type of alien aboard this craft, now that I remember what happened. I remember being naked and on a cold bench of some sort, scared shitless. The tall white alien never talked, but instilled in my mind that I was safe, but I was justified being scared. He seemed to care for us as we would for a puppy dog. I think they were disappointed that I was not Japanese. I remembered something else later too. I was warned that there are others out there who have no regards for our well-being. The whole thought of extraterrestrial beings out there that are more powerful than us and can just abduct us whenever they want is so scary that I try not to talk about this too much. But I figured since I was here, I'd let you know what happened to me all those years ago in Japan. I know it sounds cliche, but we are not alone.